Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's The In Show, Australia's only show dedicated to innovation from Adelaide, Australia and across the globe.
Hi, it's David Grice and Troy Sincock. This podcast is pretty inspiring stuff. It's innovators and entrepreneurs, startups, people with great ideas who are really taking on these things to better our everyday lives.
They are, and I just can't believe that we are just continually finding people that are making such a huge difference. But the fact is, they're so inspirational because they're actually putting their ideas into practice.
Yeah, it's almost like they step outside the rat race that the rest of us are in and go, you know what, that needs to change, and I'm the person to do it.
And that's just not across just the tech sort of industry. This is about refugees and people that really, really need help.
And talking about people that need help, today we're going to hear from something that we didn't know existed until we were invited to a Rotary Club of Adelaide meeting and then saw the incredible work they've done. Now, the Rotary Club, along with the support of Bill Gates, helped pretty much rid the globe of polio, and now they're taking steps to do exactly that, but in other areas.
Yeah, look, when we got to sit down with these two people and find out exactly what they were up to, the fact that a club that would, you would think would be fairly, riddled with the elderly, people that had a lot of time on their hands and that sort of thing, knowing that these young people that are within these clubs now that are innovating and really doing stuff to help people.
And, they're so young too. That's what's so fantastic. Young people are growing up with kind of innovation and entrepreneurship in their blood. This kind of stuff's being taught at schools.
Look, it really is. And the practical ways that this club is putting things into practice and actually doing things that, like you said before, it's about eradicating diseases. But now we're going into the world of people that are suffering from atrocities that are happening across the globe, like landmines and like war and things like that. How the Rotary Club are helping these people is just absolutely astounding.
Yeah, I agree. So the Rotary Club of Adelaide has now formed this innovation group, and recently Rotarians and Rotaractors and their friends spent the morning making artificial hands for victims of war and landmines as part of Hands On project. Daniel Clift, he's Director of Youth Services for the Rotary Club of Adelaide, and his fiancée, Elisabeth Beltrami, is the convener of the innovation group. So what's the purpose of this group, guys?
The Innovation Group is designed to be a flexible space for younger people within the Rotary Club of Adelaide to create projects that are innovative and focus on our passions and what we enjoy doing in our club.
So when you speak about innovation, what can that include? Is there particular areas you're looking at?
It can kind of be anything that people within our innovation group are interested in, but at the moment we're focusing on younger people because we recognise that that's their strength. And then also we're focusing on helping people overseas through our Hands On project as well.
What draws you to the projects that you're getting to do with this? I mean, it's obviously this one with making hands for people is just so incredible. And I can't wait to dig into that. But what made you actually go down that path in the first place?
So I suppose Rotary already runs some fantastic projects as it is. And in this case, for the one that really stood out to us was the Hands On project because of the idea of having something tangible. And we came together as a group and essentially came with a small bag and ultimately in pieces. And then by the end of this 2 hours, we'd assembled a fully functioning prosthetic hand. Ultimately, that will go to victims of a landmine explosion in Southeast Asia. And we'll actually receive a photo back of how that's impacted that person's life. But building on the innovation part, I suppose what we're trying to achieve is take something in Rotary that is already working and working quite well, but try to take it a little bit further. The long-term plan is to ultimately go into corporate Adelaide and work with businesses that have budgets for corporate responsibility, I suppose you'd call it, and also getting young people involved in the community. And then hopefully we can connect with them and ultimately facilitate this project ourselves.
So really what you're doing is sort of marrying the mindfulness that Rotary clubs already have with the desire for bigger business to get involved, but they might not quite know how to step into it, or they don't know, what projects are worthwhile. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that there is a bigger push on corporate social responsibility for businesses to get involved in, and this is kind of a pathway for them to become involved in something that will make such a meaningful difference to someone's life overseas. And they can do it. The hands-on project only took us 2 hours to do on a Saturday morning. So it's a way for you to make a real difference in a couple of hours. So that's one of the really big draw factors of why we chose this project to start with.
As well, what I find is with young people in the digital age, they're very connected and they actually do care a lot about their broader community. But often they're not so sure how I can contribute. So I suppose it's really fantastic for us if we can get this going, that we can build that connection to community a bit more, and ultimately people that really do want to make the world a better place have the opportunity to do that. And if their first experience is overwhelmingly positive, like mine was with Rotary through their youth camps, then that will create a bit of momentum to get more people involved, and through word of mouth, hopefully we can create something really big.
So how many people have you got involved in the project so far?
Within our innovation group, we've got a core group of about 15 to 20 people, and then we also have the support of the Rotary Club of Adelaide, which is a lot bigger than that. And so I think the Rotary Club of Adelaide's the biggest in South Australia. So we've got the broader support of them, and then our core group of members of 15 to 20 helping out.
So tell us about Hands On Project.
So the Hands On Project is an existing Rotary Rorks project. So that's a Rotary Australia project that has been happening for quite a number of years. And you buy 10 hands, a set of 10 hands, that's $5,000. And on a morning like we did last Saturday, a facilitator comes along and helps and guides you to build those hands. They are then sent overseas and fitted with a team of Rotarians or volunteers to victims quite often of landmines. And the countries that so far where the hands have gone to have been Sri Lanka, Laos and Cambodia. And so they normally do 1 to 2 trips a year. So they've got one coming up to Sri Lanka later on this year.
I really love what you've got going on here. It seems to me that there's, 2 things happening. There's, people get to be involved in an innovation group because they care about things and want to be a contribution, but it also exposes them to being involved in innovation and creating something from nothing. So is the thought being that if this is a pre-existing project, that it might start getting people's creative juices going, and you might see another opportunity to take something from nothing that could really impact the rest of the world.
Definitely, and that's how we've seen that the Hands On project has existed for quite a number of years, and then us being able to take it into potentially the corporate sector is where we see that we're being innovative with how it's being run. So we'll help facilitate in the future team building type activities in the corporate sector to kind of expose this Rotary project to a broader community, and also hopefully interest some corporate members to become involved in Rotary if they had not previously.
I can really see how this would be amazing for a corporate organisation as a team building exercise, because the value that they would get as individuals working together on something so significant, but then the difference that they can see then in the life of somebody that they've created this hand for would be absolutely extraordinary. Are you finding that that's something that you guys are looking towards trying to push forward with?
Fortunately, with the Rotary Club of Adelaide being one of the largest ones within Adelaide, it also means there's people that are quite connected within Adelaide, and that means that ultimately we already have a number of places we're looking to implement this. I suppose we're still at that stage where only last Saturday we actually learned how to assemble these hands ourselves. So now we're at the stage as a facilitator, then it's up to people who want to be involved with that. My background is education, so then it makes sense that I would love to be involved to run these various corporate entities. However, I'm sure others would like to be involved with that too.
The team building experience that we had last Saturday when we built them ourselves was so amazing, and to actually do it ourselves and see when you're literally creating a hand out of a number of pieces, and by the end of 2 hours you can see how this hand will make a difference in someone's life was so inspiring and really helped push along the project that we've been planning for the last 6 months. So I really can see how it would be such a great team building experience for any team in the corporate sector, the community. Any team would really benefit from these hands.
I'd also just like to add that I'm probably on the younger side of many Rotarians at the tender age of 26, but I found that when I went through the RILA programs, that's Rotary Youth Leadership Awards week-long intensive youth camp, I found it really helped me find some innate leadership qualities, I suppose. As we alluded to, it's only 2 hours of our time, but I found that we started about 9 a.m. and then it was an intensive workshop of about 2 hours or so, and we'd assembled this hand. And I just found that dopamine rush, that good feeling, just happy of I've done something good in the world, lasted the entire weekend. Then you take a really positive mindset into Monday, and just to build that momentum and have that as an experience has been fantastic. And we also did a similar thing where a common project the Rotary Club of Adelaide does is selling the wood chopped at the Adelaide show. Mm-hmm. So that's a simple one. And my background as a PE teacher, I could contribute a lot to this because I was in quite good shape. Mm-hmm. So simply it was people coming along, getting cheap firewood, and that goes towards another cause. And it just, once again, if that's how you start your weekend from 8 to 10, it leaves a really, really good impression. Mm. And then ultimately you take some really positive feelings into the next day, the next week, and so on and so forth.
There really is something in that, I think, for other startups and entrepreneurs to learn from, because often, the thing can be the amazing idea is created and then it's like, how do we do it? And even if you can assemble the people to physically do it, then there's having to raise the capital to get it done. And there really is something in what you guys have built in terms of like a strong network of people who seem to be almost, being able to be trusted, that if an idea comes from Rotary, that you can probably find some support somewhere if you reach out. Whereas like a startup is literally like pitching an idea and kind of hoping that someone will find the meaningfulness in it. Can you see the model that you have somehow benefiting startups and entrepreneurs outside of Rotary clubs?
Yes, I think that one of the things that I've noticed from being part of the Rotary Club of Adelaide's team is that it is essentially a big team where you don't feel alone in bringing your ideas and building on them. And that has been so beneficial, and we've seen that our projects have really taken off because the support and the expertise of people in other areas that I'm not an expertise in have really meant that they can take off. And so for someone who is an entrepreneur or building a startup company, if they have an idea like that and it's linked to the community in some way, involving your local Rotary Club is something that definitely is an avenue to help get more support for that idea.
Rotary is not probably an organisation that you would choose to jump in on because it's not really, for me, it hasn't been something that's been front and centre in my thinking. What made you guys get involved with Rotary?
Daniel and I both got involved with Rotary from similar pathways. Rotary is really involved in youth and youth development. That's a key area of focus that they have. And so we were both involved in a RYLA camp, which stands for Rotary Youth Leadership Award, which is, yes, an intensive 1-week program where you don't have a phone, you're with a group of strangers and you're really pushed to extend yourself. And it was through that, I know for myself and possibly for Daniel as well, I had grown so much as a person from that 7-day program that I owed it to the program to keep going and give back to it the next year. And that kind of grew in me, in that realising the world is so much bigger than just myself. I want to give back to my community because I'm able to and I have the capacity to. Although Daniel and I are quite young for the average Rotarian age, because it helped so much in so many youth around the world, that it was a really nice pathway for us.
I found that I had leadership qualities in some avenues of my life prior to going to this program, but that was things like in a sporting sense. But I hadn't had a chance to develop my skills in terms of public speaking. There's other seminars like conflict resolution, so on and so forth. And some really good life skills that ultimately, unfortunately, our education system seems to miss. And just ultimately I felt that I was able to better understand myself at the end of this program, but also has formed some really strong bonds with people from many corners of the globe. And when you're a young 18-year-old that doesn't quite understand the world, just hearing some of the stories of these young refugees and where they've come from. So just to give context, without giving too much away of the program, one of the things we do is timelines. So it's a mix of professional speakers coming along and team leaders running programs. This one's run by team leaders. And we've got a small group as they mentor them through the program. But just by about day 2, they're actually giving a small snapshot of your life. And often I found myself in a position where I was telling things quite personal that probably my best friends didn't know about me at the time, because I felt very comfortable in that space, and they did a lot to really make that. And just being able to hear some really inspiring stories of how people from war-torn countries essentially had got to where they had really gave perspective on life, and then ultimately motivated you to be around like-minded people. The fact that they were able to overcome that trauma and still do some really good things in the world obviously brought you up to do some good as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Rotary provides these RILA programs all around Australia and internationally as well. So we're lucky that we were able to experience it in South Australia, but they do exist across the world as well. And that's one way that they help to build youth in the community and help develop them.
And it is fully funded. So often the model will be that, for example, we're in District 9500, which is part of South Australia. There's 2 districts in South Australia, essentially. And it would be that, say, the Rotary Club of Gawler Light, for example, would sponsor someone from their local region generally and pay the full expenses for that person. And then in return, they would come back and speak at that program and say, this is what I got out of it. So Rotary is very committed to the youth, and they're recognising that if they don't put a lot of attention into it, then there'll be a gap in the future.
I think what we're hearing here is that there is this very strong network that exists not only in Australia but right around the world. What's the connectivity of Rotary in Adelaide like globally?
I found it be quite connected, but I'm not so sure it's Adelaide specific, more that it's just Rotary specific. So Elisabeth went on this program too. I went to the RILA North America. So that was a
similar program run overseas but internationally.
Yeah. So we've gone from about 40 awardees to 200 now. And there were 2 Australians. I was one of them when I went. And this time we'd probably covered a greater coverage of the globe in terms of awardees. And ultimately I found that the generosity of people was overwhelming. Never had that level of kindness to otherwise strangers. So we had met these people for about 3 or 4 days. And then ultimately I was travelling around North America just for some time afterwards because it's a long way to get there. So I thought I'd enjoy myself while I'm there. And I found that I actually changed my travels because people just opened their doors and said, you can come stay with me, I'll show you around my city. And we're just overwhelmed by the kindness simply because all we shared was a Rotarian. It comes down to 4-way test, they call it. It's really 4 key values, and the fundamental theme is having integrity and being a good human.
So, if people are hearing, how connected Rotary is and that you're now working in the innovation space, if somebody had an innovation that they wanted to get off the ground, how would that work? Can they literally become a member and, put an idea in front of you, or is there more formalities than that?
If someone had an idea that was innovative and involved the community and would make the community develop or improve it in any way, definitely get in contact with your local Rotary Club. You would be surprised that there are a lot around the world. I didn't probably realise how many Rotary Clubs there were before I was actually in it, but there are so many. And get involved with them because they're always a group of people that the common theme is that you want to help your community and serve your community above yourself is the key theme. But sometimes people don't have the ideas themselves. So if you have the idea, take it to them. And I know certainly in the past and even now, I would be happy to hear from any innovative projects that are out there that can help the community.
So what's next? We're building hands. What do you see as the next project you guys are interested in getting your teeth into?
So maybe not project specific, but we really want to try build more momentum so we can be a bit more of a pilot for a really successful club that's doing a lot to capture that audience from about 18 to 40, because often we find that's one where people are in a really busy stage of their life. Of course, people older than that are still very busy as well. But when you factor in young professionals, potentially children, it can be really hard to have that outlet. And that's why we aim to be flexible, first of all, to cater to them. So we really want to try to build momentum both in numbers of our current innovation group and then really try to have some sort of retention rate for demonstrating success of this project in the corporate sector.
And we also have found that within our group, like I mentioned before, working with youth is something that is a strength of all of our members in different capacities. So we want to build on that strength, and instead of recreating the wheel of building another water well overseas, which is an amazing project that does happen in Rotary, but that's not necessarily a strength that we have. So we want to work with youth. And so we're planning a few projects later on in the year where we want to build professional development for youth to help engage them with what we're doing in our club at the moment as well.
And we also just see some opportunities for better engagement between the different clubs. So as an educator, I'm starting an Interact club in my current school. Interact is essentially a Rotary-based organisation for high school students, within a school. And then there's Rotaract, as we've discussed, so 18 to 30-year-olds. And Elisabeth was instrumental in getting that going in South Australia. And we want to see some more connectivity between the two. So my current role for next Rotary year, which match financial years, will be Youth Director at the Rotary Club of Adelaide. And I see opportunity to just, with some really good strategic planning and execution, opportunity to have some more connectivity within, I'm thinking, high school students to university students, and especially there's already an Interact Club going at Adelaide High School, has been going for about 20 years, but with Adelaide Botanic High opening next year, I see an opportunity there, and they're in close proximity of Adelaide Oval where we meet for our luncheon meetings. And I see a really good opportunity for even just mentoring from university students and then connecting Rotaractors to Rotarians who are already in the industry and having successful careers, so everyone can get something out of it.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, congratulations on the Innovation Group. And Daniel and Elisabeth from the Rotary Club of Adelaide, thanks so much for joining us on the In Show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
To find out more about the Hands On Project, visit handsonproject.com.au or rotaryaustralia.org.au. On the next In-Show podcast, we're going to find out what's happening all around the globe, and there are some weird and wonderful stories in innovation. What we're discovering, though, it's not only about technology, it's about the human aspects that really adds value to the innovation, startup and entrepreneurship space.
Yeah, we talk a lot about machine learning and artificial intelligence and all the things that technology are doing for us. But I reckon there's going to be a few stories that Claire's got up her sleeve that just bring us back to the human elements of that.
And you can hear that on the next In-Show podcast.
The In-Show Interview. To hear more of The In-Show, subscribe to In-Show on Apple Podcasts or find us at ozcastnetwork.com. A Dave and the Beanstalk production.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.